Hey drummers, how's it going? And welcome to part 2 of our little 2-week beginner program. Last week we looked at a nice simple groove and how we could sort of mix things up to make it a little bit more interesting. This week we're going to do the same thing with a drum fill. So if you like what you saw in the intro and you want to give it a crack, stick around and I'll break it down. Here we go. Okay, so if, like me, when you first started drumming, you did everything with your hands when it came to drum fills. You just want to play your beat and then just play your hands as fast as you can around the kit and try and keep in time as best you could. What we're going to do here is we're going to just inject 2 kick drums into our little single stroke 16th notes idea. Alright, so instead of playing 4 on each drum around the kit, or in my case, like 4 on the snare, 4 on the high tom, 4 on the snare, 4 on the floor tom, we're going to chuck a kick in every 6th note. Alright, so we've got 16 notes per bar. We're going to play 5 notes with the hands. Then we're going to chuck in a kick, so we sort of treat that as a group of 6. We're then going to do exactly the same thing again, 5 with the hands, 1 with the foot, and that takes us up to 12 notes taken care of, which leaves 4 remaining, and then we're just going to chuck those around the kit. So if we just look at the basic pattern between the snare drum and the kick drum, we want to get this, okay? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. Counting it properly, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a... Alright, because it's not sort of sticking to that 4 notes per beat, well, technically it is, but because we mix it up and got this kind of like 6-note pattern, it spills over that beat that's going on, so it creates a slightly more interesting idea. So if we just chuck that into a groove, we'll pop up there, I'll go nice and slowly, and we'll just do 1 beat, 1 fill, 1 beat, 1 fill, and every time I finish the drum fill, I'm going to wallop that crash. So here we go. Okay, so once you've got that down, you've practiced it a little tiny bit, you can play at a few different speeds. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this sticking pattern and just sort of chuck it around the kit. We'll start off with like a sort of rough system, and then we'll start being a little bit more adventurous and sort of mixing it up. So if we were sort of looking at 2 groups of 6 and then a group of 4, we'll take our group of 6 at the beginning and we're going to, instead of playing snare, 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 snare kick, we're going to play snare, high, floor, 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 kick. And if we do that twice, but then we'll play our last 4 notes on the snare drum, it will sound like this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, bar. Should we see what that sounds like at a few different speeds? Yes. Let's crank it up a bit. Okay, so now it's starting to sound way more complicated already. Another thing you can do is you can play the first couple of groups of 6 on the snare drum and then chuck your last 4 notes around the kit. Okay, that's one other voicing idea. Then we looked at playing 6 around the kit and then both 6s around the kit and then 4 on the snare. Again, you could put the last 4 notes around the kit as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that'd be... Sounds pretty cool. Once you get those sort of ideas down, then you want to take your first group of 6 and then play something different in your second group of 6. So if we look at maybe starting off with what we already know. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That would sound quite cool. And then 4 around the kit. So for this one, we're going snare, high, floor, 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 kick. kick, snare, snare, hi, hi, snare, kick. So that's the second group of 6. So quickly look at that again. 1, 2 on the snare, 2 on the hi tom. Bring your right hand back down to the snare. Then you've got your kick. So snare, snare, hi, hi, snare, kick. That sounds pretty sweet. And then, sorry, the last group of 4 is snare, hi, floor, floor, botch. Let's chuck that into some groove and pop up there. Here we go. Bit quicker. Okay, so we can all agree that sounds so much better than it did when we were just playing. And all we've done is just move the hands around the kit, sort of come up with a few systems where we're playing the same thing the first couple of times, and then starting to get a bit more adventurous and mixing up on both groups of 6, and then sort of doing whatever we want for the last 4 notes. So again, just be creative, come up with your own ideas. What I do now, and I said I'd do in the previous video, is take the last week's groove and then sort of mix it in with what we've done today. So if I just take some of the drum beats we did last week, I'll do some of the sort of the voicing ideas that we did here, just so you can see it's going to sound a little bit different every single time, even though I'm playing exactly the same thing. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'm going to pop up there. Here we go. Slow to begin with. Alright drummers, so there it is. That unfortunately brings an end to our 2-part beginner series. I hope you enjoyed the drum beat, I hope you enjoyed the drum fill. Just practice playing them at a couple of different speeds, mixing everything up, try and get creative, and hopefully you can sort of develop a few ideas just out of some of the concepts that we explored throughout the last 2 weeks. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already. Go to onlinedrummer.com, you can get the sheet music for this week's lesson. Check out last ones if you missed it. There's a quick start guide to drums if you want to learn a bit more. There's a link to that down below. Also down there you'll find links to Patreon if you want to support the channel, Facebook, Twitter, and all that lovely stuff. So until next time, take care, keep drumming, and I'll see you next Thursday for some more fun free drumming ideas. Alright, see you later.